Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Today is the question and answer period for the previous stream that we did, which is about the mechanics of reincarnation. This is a little test. We're testing out doing it this way. See if you got, see if it works. If it works, then maybe it's something we'll do. If it doesn't work, then maybe it's something we won't do. So I don't see particularly any questions in the text chat right now from the material covered last week. Should I just wait for a second? So Catherine says, what is a body that's manifest in Hari? Like, is it like in a dream? So why? So this is a basic misconception that we have, that Hari is not physical, or that physical equals external. Physical doesn't equal external. External equals external. Extrinsic equals extrinsic. So Hari has Prakriti. And then Hari also donates Prakriti to us. So Prakriti is the thing that we use to manifest the physical body. If we don't have Hari as a part of our perception, then we don't manifest our body using Hari's Prakriti. We manifest it using the Prakriti that he donates to us to have a separate or externalized extrinsic existence. So a body that's manifest in Hari is just as physical as the body that is right now. But then you might think, well, that's not cool. I have gas and I have smells, bad smells. Gas and bad smells and all that stuff is not a characteristic of physicality. It's a characteristic of disease. So, just because physicality can be diseased doesn't mean that it must be diseased. You understand? See if you have any follow-up questions on that. Alf, do we reincarnate in the same family lineage? Not necessarily, probably not, but maybe, depending on it. You reincarnate according to your bhav. You reincarnate according to your nature. Why does he say? Oh, good, nice. I like this question. This is a question that is right on specifics of the previous stream. Why does he say that other sages who are bewildered deny their senses? Is he saying that if you deny your senses, you won't get enlightened? Yeah. You caught a good thing. At the very least, what he's saying is that simple repression of external activity doesn't indicate enlightenment. So, for example, if you have a debt of $60,000 and you get rid of the debt of $60,000, it doesn't mean you're rich, right? So similarly, if you discontinue ignorant activities, it doesn't mean that you're enlightened or happy or anything. It just means that you've discontinued the negative. So what he's saying is people who discontinue external materialistic activities are generally accepted as sages, but maybe we should be more careful about that. Or find their sages, but in comparison to a sage like Narada, who has taken up internal activities, who has taken up intrinsic activities, they're not very enlightened. Spacebug, is there a way in this life to remedy the faults from the past life body while in this life? Hi, Heitel. Yes, that's everything that we do. Everything that we try to do is making this one better. But you have limits of, this is why you reincarnate, really, so that you can get a new set of limits. So just think of it like when you're playing poker. If you play poker over the course of the night, you get many, many hands dealt to you. You play many, many games. And then you can't change the fact that you got dealt a certain hand, but then during the game you can play with the hand. It's the same way with each incarnation. You get put into a certain circumstance with certain DNA that's going to manifest a certain body and certain traits, and they're going to make you interact with things in a certain way. So you get a basic certain boundary of what you can possibly experience. But within that boundary, like say Minecraft, it's like this big gigantic world of blocks, and technically it's not infinite, but it's pretty big. You can do anything you want within this huge span of blocks. So life is pretty much like that. There's boundaries to what you can and cannot do, but the boundaries are not terribly narrow. The boundaries are fairly big. So you can work with yourself in this lifetime. Alf, another question from Dr. Alf. If we are always doing the same thing in every life, are trying to fix our ancestors or fathers' mistakes. So, ancestors, what are you talking about? It's on a bodily concept of life that you have ancestors. The ancestors are just the chain of events that have produced your body through Prakriti. You don't have any real ancestors. Your only real ancestor is Hari, who's not even an ancestor. It's a concestor. So, no. Also, are we always doing the same thing in every life? You're not always doing the same thing in every life. You're changing, but it is a continuity of how things change. There's continuity from one life to the next, but it's continuous change. Ronaldo asks, if it's a two-way street, can a tattoo somehow affect the next life? Yeah. Sure, anything that affects your mind will affect your next life. Samurai Mama, the soul needs to manifest through a body because it doesn't know who it is, right? No, the soul needs to manifest through a body because it wants to show who it is. We don't know who we are. We don't know who we truly are, so we're trying different things, and that's why we're reincarnating. But if you know who you are, then you can manifest that tangibly in a body as well. Graziel Galib, only interest in Bhagwan through listening and kirtan can make people lose interest in intrinsic and go towards intrinsic. Seems like a slow transition process. Now it's a fast transition process. Anyway, what's fast and slow? Fast and slow is relative. Speed is relative from one object to another. So why do you worry about fast and slow? Melissa, can I have the ability to create the body in the correct form through sadhana? Yes. This is the purpose of sadhana, is to create a form that you want. Alf clarifies, I just always thought samskara was karma you carried from ancestors, not like your ancestors are your ancestors. And your family is your family, and you are you. Everybody's actions influence everybody else. But my actions can influence you. Something that I might say might influence you. But my karma is not your karma. My actions may influence you, but my karma is my karma, your karma is your karma. My actions produce reactions for me. They can produce reactions for you, but only if you make decisions to interact with my actions and accept my actions. So there's no such thing as that you have somebody else's karma. The thing is, you have your karma, but you exist in a world of relationships and you can be influenced by the karmas of other people. You don't carry anybody else's karma except your own. Seema says, can we eradicate the need for sense gratification almost completely if we live a life of renunciation? Never. We'll never do that. That goes back to Ohm's question. Ohm's pointing out that Barishat said these sages are renunciates, but they're not very enlightened. Vela, what do you want to know about the Pitris? Oh, are they the ancestors? They're not the ancestors. Then why are they called the Pitris? Because they're forefathers of life forms. They're not your ancestors. They're the ancestors of life forms. So like the evolutionary, the primary evolutors are the Pitris. They make all the different life forms that can be inhabited. They're not my ancestors. They're the ancestors. Bardo asks, what's the Akashic record? Is it a Vedic concept? It is. I don't really know what it is. You have to ask somebody who knows what it is. But to make it relate to a Vedic concept, it would be that mind, samskara, is basically an Akashic record. But don't ask me, I'm not an expert. Graziella says, they say we are receiving people who are already dead. Wouldn't they already be incarnated already? Bingo. Maybe. Actually, so this is an interesting point. And if you want to watch my nakshatra video on Magga, I think I have 2 of them on Magga, and either one, watch both. Because I went into some detail there about how afterlife works. So just because if I die, like right now, so if I died September 2nd at 9:44, then it doesn't mean that I'm going to be born in 2022. What's September plus 9 months? You'd think I could do this, but I can't. September is 9 plus 9 is 18, 18 minus 12 is 6. Like, so it's not, doesn't mean that I'll be born in July 2nd, 2022 at 9:44. You see what I mean? It doesn't mean that... Oh, you do know that I will be born next time not in 1980, right? Or not in 2021. But you don't know if I'm going to be born in 2022 or 4051. Like, you have no idea. Because you have no idea how long I'm going to spend with Yamaraj. Nor do you know at what pace the time spent with the Yamaraj will correspond to time up here. So once you get out of your physical body, time becomes way unimportant. This is why when you go to sleep and you wake up, you have no sense of how long you've been asleep. Sometimes you feel like you just fell asleep, but you've been out for 10 hours. Sometimes you feel like you've been asleep for years, but you've only slept, you took like a nap. You took like a 20-minute nap. So as soon as you get out of physicality and you get into the mental realm, time just doesn't really even work very well. So the point that I'm trying to make is the amount of time between when you die and when you next get born is very indeterminate. Because you may have a lot of stuff to do in Yamalok. You may have a little stuff to do in Yamalok. You may also need to wait for the universe to have the correct circumstances that you're supposed to be born into. There may be a waiting list. So this is why the time is so flexible when you're in that non-physical state. So that there's no problem to waiting, etc. So is it then possible to, receive communication from people who are dead? Yes. Because there's this whole like purgatory type place called Yamaraj, called Yamalok. And also, you have to realize that you can just receive information in general from the ancestors rather than your ancestors. This is also clear from the Pitri's video on Mugga. But your brain will give it shape and form as your ancestors, even though it's just the ancestors. Hopefully that works for you. Ronaldo, so does good karma always lead to more spiritual lives? No. There's good karma, there's bad karma, and there's akarma. There's 3 types of karmas. There's bad karma, which is called vikarma. Then there's good karma, which is called karma. And then there's non-karma, which is called akarma. If you're performing good karma, then you're getting good results. Results that you want and desire. If you're acting the right, it's simple. It's not hocus pocus. If you're doing effective, proper, good things, then you're getting effective, good results. If you're doing things improper, people don't want to hear this because they think that they're doing it right and still getting a bad result. But there's something that we're doing wrong. There's something wrong about what we're doing when we're getting bad results. So yeah, that's the way it works. Now, if you want to get more spiritual, depends on what you think is spiritual. Sometimes bad results might make you be more spiritual. Sometimes good results might make you be more spiritual. But really, the only way to get non-extrinsified from Bhagavan is not from good karma or bad karma. It's from hearing and knowing about Bhagavan. And that will lead you to go in akarma, which is non-extrinsic activity. Okay, next question. Galib. If ultimate purpose is samadhi, who says the ultimate purpose? Okay, I am struggling at yama and niyama. Heart is not cleansing enough. There's selfish desire and desire to win. Any tips? Struggling at yama and niyama to me means it's difficult to follow the rules. If it's difficult to follow the rules, then you need to have more knowledge about why. You'll do whatever you feel is your best interest. But the problem is that we have misknowledge about what we think is our best interest. Many people think it's the best interest to kill themselves or hurt themselves. So if you're unable to follow principles or rules that you want to follow, then the reason is that you don't really clearly understand enough why those are really the things that are advantageous for you. So try to get more knowledge if you're having a problem with yam and niyam. Did I watch John of God? No. Sorry. Marie Ferris. What or how is right action judged? Try to answer the questions about reincarnation. I don't know, maybe. What or how is right action judged? Thinking, for example, of the woman who falsely accused Emmett Till of whistling at her. It led to his death, but it was a spark of a civil rights movement. Bhishmadev tells Yudhishthira that to decide the rightness or wrongness of an action is something that baffles people. Very, very qualified people. This is why you have to study to be a judge, etc. But the simple answer for right action is something that you're meant to do. So by meant to do means this drum has performed a right action. It made a sound because it's a drum. If when I hit this drum it went, then it would be performing a dharmic action. It's not doing what it was built to do. So if you're a student, then the right action is for you to study. If you're a carpenter, then the right action for you is to build. If you're a student and a carpenter, then some of your right action is to study, and some of your right action is to build, And now it gets a little more complicated, because what should you be doing right now? Studying or building? It's starting to get more complicated. If you're a mother, your right action is to feed your kids and love them and take care of them. If you're a father, your right action is to protect your kids, and the mother is taking care of them and feeding them. If you're not doing that, then you're doing no dharma. But I'm also a carpenter. So this is why it gets complicated. So the people that actually understand dharma, they know all about the prioritization of the thing. And the prioritization of the thing is really where it comes down to sorting out the puzzles about duty. What has a higher priority than what else? Does your occupation have a higher priority than your family relation, etc.? Does your relation to your nation or your neighborhood have a higher priority than your relation to your daughter? Or does it have a lower priority? Because I have a certain duty to my neighborhood or to my friend and a certain duty to my daughter, but they conflict. I can't do them both right now. But they're both asking me for it to be done right now. Which one do I do? The answer to that question is clear if you understand the dharmic priority. So, but that's, to make it very simple, right action is judged by whether the thing does what it's designed to do or intended for. So a mother is designed to take care of a kid. A father is designed to protect a kid. A teacher is designed to teach. A carpenter is designed to build. Hopefully that makes sense. Spacebug, thank you. Bardo. Do avatars create karmic? No. They're doing akarmas. AW, is there any way to identify if a new person is someone's from the family's reincarnation? Sure. Just like Narada was, I have a feeling like we're not really asking questions from the previous thing, but maybe that's okay. Narada said, it's easy to tell what you were doing in your last life. So it should also be fairly easy to recognize what somebody was doing in their past life, if they're your kid. And it should be fairly easy to spot the whether or not they're somebody from your family reincarnated. I don't know why it's terribly important, because the thing that people don't realize is who was I in my last life? You were everybody. You were everybody in your past life, because you had so many past lives. Was I ever your son in my past life? I was your son in my past life. Was I ever your frog or your pet dog? Yes. So it's not so much like, wow, this person, I just met the person who was my pet dog in his past life. Wow. It's not wow, actually. Everybody's been everything. So it's not that, Here's an interesting question. Cell says, so right and wrong have nothing to do with morals. Morals are the way that you describe right and wrong. Right and wrong have to do with whether or not you're doing what you're intended to do. So, for example, if a mom neglects her kids, that's described as immoral. Why is it described as immoral? Because she's a mom. She's designed to take care of the kids. That's the mother's purpose. You see? So morality is not the thing which creates the right and wrong. Morality is the thing that describes the right and wrong. If we say stuff like moms should take care of kids, fathers should protect their family, ensure that the family's safe and able to flourish. That's moral. That's morality. That's our morality, but it's based on the observation of how a thing's supposed to function. Because there's such a thing as collective karma. As I said, you have your karma, I have my karma. You don't have my karma, I don't have your karma. But my actions can influence your actions, and I might be responsible for your actions. So my action may be part of the reason why you performed a certain action, in which case I'm responsible for not your action, but for how I influenced you. So for example, if I say, go rob that store, take that purse, you shouldn't pay for that purse, take it. And you take it. I don't get karma for stealing a purse. I get karma for inspiring somebody to steal a purse. So this is sort of collective karma. I'm responsible for your actions. Like if I'm a parent and my child does something great, I didn't do something great, but I helped that child be able to do something great. So that child doing something great is connected with my good karma. But people will think the child doing something makes me have good karma. No. You have the good karma by how you raise the child, and then it shows in how they do something. So similarly, kings, leaders, rulers of nations, they have a lot of influence on people. So they get a tremendous amount of karma from whether or not the subjects that they're influencing are doing well, good, or not. Is it true that if Ketu is in the 12th and Ra is in the 6th, that it's my last incarnation? It is not at all true. Bardo, what happens after you exhausted your karma and lived only generating akarma and died? Do you still get reborn? Various things can happen. The rebirth depends upon your bhava. It's always that way. The bhava means the mind. The inner situation determines the outer situation. The internal situation determines the external situation. So if your internal situation is that you exhausted all your karma, what is your internal situation? Is it that you don't want to manifest a form? Then you won't manifest a form. Then you'll remain latent and inactive. And you'll be indistinguishable from Brahman, from the latent consciousness itself. And you will lose I-ness. And you'll lose mindness. And you'll have no more independent existence. If that's your nature, if that's what you want. That's one way of ceasing to exist in a karmic manner. Another way is that you want a existence in relationship to Bhagavan. In that case, you would get born in Bhagavan's prakriti, with Bhagavan, to interact with Bhagavan. You're not going to have gas, you're not going to get cancer, you're not going to have ajita, you're not going to have any of the things that are associated with disease of the physical. But you won't be aphysical, non-physical. Do we judge dharmic priorities on a moral scale? Don't know what the question means, sorry. My favorite lifetime was when you were a frog. And where's Kermit? We need Kermit. So when we manifest a body to express our identity, Samurai Mama asks, is it us who choose our dharma? Or our dharma in this lifetime is determined by our previous karmas? Your previous karmas, though, were your choice to act, right? Karma means your action. So by the choices of what you do, you initiate your karmas, and then those karmas create your situations, and then those situations indicate the dharmas. Pranam Vidal. Would amassing too much good karma prevent one from exiting the cycle of rebirths? Yes. Mad Swagger. What if a child has a difficult childhood because of abuse from parents and they become great? Because of the strength they had to develop. The parent is not going to get the result. The parent is responsible for the bad stuff that they did to the child. The child's good action is not a result of how the parent influenced them, except in a negative way. The child gets the good credit in that case. I don't know. Why do you want that? I think in a prior lesson you said that Spacebug, go back to the first canto streams on Bhagavatam, and when the women are on top of on the balconies in the city of Hastinapur while Krishna is getting ready to leave, and listen to what they say about oneness. They say these bald-headed fools think that they're going to become one with the Supreme, but we know how you become one. You become one by love, not by disappearing. So if you want to become one with Brahman, it's not really that exciting to do it by being indistinguishable from Brahman. The best way to do it is but through the bond of love. That's what love does. That's bhakti. Devana says, I think in a prior lesson you said that we don't actually change our karma during our lifetime. No, I wouldn't say that. But, no, I wouldn't say that. Your karma is constantly being changed. Yeah, so I've already expressed this already in this stream. But you may be joining after I said it. When you're born, you just rewind and watch. If you're interested in the answer to this question, rewind it and watch it again. Rabin Sharma, I find karma very congruent with many world interpretation of quantum mechanics. I mean, it's simpler than that. It's just Newtonian physics. Every action has an equal and opposite reaction. It's basically the physical reflection of the principle of karma. I mean, karma is just an action produces a result. It's not a complicated theory. What about the sages or guides who come back to inspire or lead others? How do they or are they chosen? Does Vishnu ask or decide? Or do they? Nobody comes back to inspire or lead others. People who are improving themselves inspire and lead others. Only if Vishnu comes, or Shiva or somebody's coming out of an avatar, then they take entourage with them. And they travel with their entourage. And so they may appear to be, but avatars are not back. They're not in the system. They're just visible to the system. Also, this is pretty exhausting, just following all your questions around. So what I'm going to do now is reread the section that we're inquiring about right now. See if it inspires or answers any further questions. So we'll take a short break from the questions and answers to reread this section. King Barishat said, I've heard everything you've said. I've thought about it carefully, and I see the truth in it. I can only conclude that all these sages who tried to guide me did not understand what you understand. Or if they did, I have no idea why they didn't teach it to me. It seems that even sages who suppress their sensuality are bewildered. But now that I've listened to you, almost all my doubts are unraveled. But I do just have one remaining confusion. We do a deed in this life, but enjoy its result mostly in the next life, in a different body. This is what those who know the Vedas say, but it doesn't seem right. Why should the beneficiary of our action be a different person? A person we become in the future, not the one who performed it in the present. So Narada answers, the body that performs the action in this life is the same as the body that enjoys the action in the next life. This is because the true performer and enjoyer of action is not the physical body, but the mind. And the mind of the living entity is constant and does not change from one lifetime to the next. Then he gives an example to show this principle working in a simple way. When you are awake, you do things, and when you go to sleep, you dream about those things and the feelings they generate. This is no different from how karma works over multiple lifetimes. You do things now, and this results in enjoying things later. And the things that you do now are like done in a certain body, and then they're enjoyed in another body, which is just the mind. Because the thing which did them was actually the mind, even when you were awake. The physical body is a tangible expression of the identity and desires of the mind. Using this body, the mind performs actions and then gets the results of those actions, which in turn cause a new, updated expression of the mind's identity and desires. This is why we can infer a person's state of mind by observing their physical expressions and conditions. And, since the current state of mind results from previous actions, we can infer a person's previous life from the way their mind currently operates. Sometimes one remembers in vivid detail experiences that one has never seen or heard of at all in their lifetime. Since it's impossible to remember something one has not experienced, we can only conclude that these things must be experiences that we had while in other bodies during other lifetimes. Thus, a person's own mind reveals their previous births and also points towards their future births or their liberation. Please understand this. So maybe if you're getting questions now, new questions, you can write them down. People are funny. The king had a question. When I dream, I'm so unlike people that it's so difficult to enjoy interactions with people because I'm so unlike everybody. Anyway, sorry. The king had a question. When I dream, sometimes I see things that are impossible, like oceans hovering above the mountains. Is this something I experienced in previous life? Narada explained, sometimes the mind can see and hear things that are impossible to have physically seen or heard, because the mind can combine impressions from many different places, times, and activities. With our minds, we have gone everywhere and experienced everything. But what goes into memory in order may come out of memory disordered. The mind can even experience the all-attractive supreme if it is firmly fixed in perfect clarity, just as the moon can reveal the presence of invisible Rahu. So then the king wonders, how does a mind become independent from its bodies and thus attain liberation? So Narada explains. Living beings have a beginningless sense of I and mine. As long as this sense remains divorced, it will utilize the qualities of nature to invest itself into an external body. So when he says divorced, he means divorced from Bhagavat. There is no mechanical or artificial way to prevent this from happening. Even when you lose your sense of your body being the anchor for your I and mind, like when you are in deep sleep, anesthetized, in a coma, asphyxiated, or in extreme pain, it still immediately returns as soon as these adverse conditions pass. While the body is embryonic or in infancy, the sensory capacities are not well developed, and thus the mind cannot strongly anchor to it. But this is not liberation. The connection to the physical body in these cases is like a new moon, fully present but not fully visible. When you dream, you are not physically active, but still you pursue your sensuality. Similarly, when the mind does not fully connect to a body, it is not liberated, for it still harbors its divisive sense of I and mind. Thus, separation from the senses cannot cause liberation. A living being is known as a conscious entity exhibiting 16 sensorial capacities and 5 forces to circulate those capacities into the 3 aspects of the world. This interaction between the sensorial capacities and the world causes the living being to attain or reject various physical forms that are capable of conferring sensations that produce pleasure or displeasure and happiness, fear, or unhappiness. Here's a part that I actually somehow didn't read last week. Reincarnation is like a caterpillar moving from one leaf to the next. It does not fully let go of the previous leaf until it has a grip on the new one. So this analogy that he gives of the caterpillar is to show that there's continuity between one lifetime and the next. They're not separate things. That the caterpillar goes onto this leaf by coming from that leaf and touches both of the leaves at the same time. So the actions and everything from this life carry to the actions and everything in the next life. Reincarnation is like a caterpillar moving from one leaf to the next. It does not fully let go of the previous leaf until it has a grip on the new one. Similarly, we do not give up our previous bodily informed identity until we accept the next. As one caterpillar traverses 2 leaves, there is uninterrupted continuity between one lifetime and the next, as one mind traverses 2 bodies. We always do things with the intention to enjoy sensorial results, but as long as we do so without true awareness, These intentions will continuously cause us to produce and be anchored into extrinsic bodies. Liberation results when this lack of true awareness is eradicated. To do so, adore Hari with all of your being, understanding to him to be the source, sustenance, and ultimate end of everything you can experience. That's what it was. Thank you very much, Marie. That's nice. Does the mind want to leave the body when you die just because the body is getting old, or is it because the mind gets tired of this incarnation, wants a new one? Try to remember the allegory of Paranjana, the citizen, and the thing that Narada took the trouble to explain this whole allegory so that you could visualize it. And the different ways that you die is different experiences. Death is not a uniform thing, nor is life. Different people have different experiences of death. The way that Paranjana died, he had to be arrested and dragged out of his city while it was burning. Didn't want to leave his body even though it was old, even though it was attacked, even though it was broken. He wanted to rebuild it. He left in great confusion and great suffering, and only by being dragged by the neck. Whereas when Vidarbhi died, she didn't, even her death is not even described. And Narada didn't even describe her death because it wasn't even experienced by her. She became enlightened by contact with Paramatma. She didn't even experience such a thing as death. So death is very different for all different people. The mind doesn't really want to leave the body, but it has to leave the body. If the mental plane, Seema asks, travels with the soul from body to body, does it project sort of the same circumstances of birth after birth? Yes, that's the whole point. That's what he's saying. And because of this, because the mind is carrying, because the mind came from the previous body, then by observing the mind, you can understand the previous body. And since the mind affects the current body, by observing the current body, you can understand the mind, by which you can understand the previous body. I like that Devana's put a caterpillar on the screen. The infinite caterpillar. Bardo asks, if when Purusha disentangles from Prakriti, will it be end of the mind's jivas, etc.? No, the mind and the jiva is not a part of Prakriti. So like if I take a red thread and sew it into this shirt, then if I take the red thread out, will the red thread cease to exist? Of course not. What ceases to exist is the relationship between the red thread and the purple shirt. Does the purple shirt cease to exist without the red thread? Of course not. So the condition of us right now is the red thread in the purple shirt. The red thread being the conscious being that we are, and the purple shirt being the prakriti, the energy, the matter, the substance that we're using to manifest our thoughts, emotions, and our physical existence. If you pull the red thread out of the purple shirt, it's still a red thread. Furthermore, it would really like to have a nice shirt to be a part of. And that's why it will tend to go into one prakriti or the other. It doesn't want to just sit there and enter the red threadness. It likes to be involved in a tapestry or in a weave. So it will either go into Bhagavan's prakriti or Bhagavan Bhinna prakriti, the separated prakriti. How does it fit with simulation theory? I don't know simulation theory. Dreaming snail, can you experience past life emotions and dreams that you've never felt in this life? Can you experience past life emotions and dreams that you've never. That's what we talked about. Dreaming snail. That's what Narada said. Like he just said that. If let me find it so that you can understand. Or maybe you asked this question before this was read. He says, sometimes the mind can see or hear things. Wait, that's his question. Sometimes one remembers in vivid detail experiences that one has never seen or heard of at all in their lifetime. Since it's impossible to remember something one has not experienced, we can only conclude that these things must be experiences we had while in other bodies during other lifetimes. I see. So you're saying, can you experience emotions or just physical experiences? There's no such thing as a physical experience, really. There's no such thing. Physicality. There's no physical experience. Everything is experienced in the emotions. The physical stuff is just the tangibility of the emotion and the trigger of the emotion. Not sharing the karma unlocks a mental chain. Thank you. I'm glad. Matt Swagger. Is it possible to live many lifetimes in the same body? No. Alf, what about dementia in old age? The mind is twisted and the next life is semi-doomed. Now, dementia is, the mind is not affected by dementia. The brain is affected by dementia. So try to understand that the mind operates, the mind connects to the body through prana entering the nervous system. If the nervous system is damaged, and then it's like if one of the ports on your computer is damaged, then the external thing won't be able to connect to the computer effectively. So if the nervous system gets damaged, if you chop off half of your brain, or if you get a disease in the brain, or if you get a disease in the body or in the nerves or something, then the mind won't be able to interface with the body properly. So it won't be able to store information in the synapses and process the information in the synapses. The mind itself is fine, but the tool that it uses to interact with the physical world and express itself is damaged. So does that mean that if you have dementia, then in your next life you're going to be demented? Not really. Why would it mean that? What Narada is saying is that the bhava that you cultivate in now is the basis for the being that you become later. You're not cultivating a disease. The disease is happening to you, and you're cultivating your identity and everything as a result of it. Will this dementia affect who you are in your last life? Yes. All of your experiences affect who you become in your next life. Is it going to affect you to again become a demented person? Maybe not. Probably not. Maybe you'll be even more careful because you don't want to go through that again. Samurai has a nice question. Did you get clarification on the 16? So 16, I think it shouldn't be described as 16 sensorial capacities, because the 16 will be, let's actually work it out. There's 5 tan matras, which are earth, water, fire, air, and space. The 5 tan matras have the 5 bhutas have the 5 tan matras. So earth, water, fire, and space each have a way that they're perceived, which is from earth to space: smell, taste, form, touch, and sound. Then those 5 tanmatras have a capacity to experience them. So in order, the sense of smell, the sense of taste, the sense of sight, the sense of touch, and the sense of hearing. Then those 5 sensory capacities have 5 organs which are designed to utilize the sensory capacities. So, but not physical organs, like intellectual organs in the mind. So the facility for sight, etc., smell, hearing. That equals 20, right? There's the Bhuta, the Tanmatra, the power, and then the sense. That's 20. So, and then there's the mind. So the 15 would be all those 20 minus the 5 Bhutas. I do believe. And then the 16th one would be the mind. Think of it that way. I don't know. It's some way to count it. It's some way to count the components of reality. I think if it was really important, then Narada would have explained what they are. This is not that important to this part. Bardo asks if the red thread is a metaphor for consciousness, God who creates a purple shirt. Yes, the red thread is Brahman, this conscious being, and the shirt is the Prakriti. Matt Swagger, does the South Node relate to past lives and the North Node to the future in Vedic too, as they do in Western astrology? It's the same astrology. People separate astrology so artificially. It's just astrology. Yes, they all mean the same thing if you actually understand it correctly. Past life, it's not. Ketu is just the past. Rahu is the future. When you say it's past life, that's your scoping on the past. Future life is your scoping on the future. However, just like you can't, Elvis Presley and Christine, what's her name? Cindy Crawford, they had Venus in Capricorn. If you just watched the video I put out yesterday. But they're pretty sensual, good-looking Venusian people. It's the same way you can't... because what I explain and demonstrate in that video is that you have to look at more than just one thing. You have to understand context. It's the same thing. You can't just say, oh, my Rahu is in the 6th house. It means that I'm going to become Shudra in my next life. It's like... the oversimplification of things is tiring. To deal with the oversimplification. So yes, Rahu represents the future, and so yes, maybe Rahu could extrapolate to mean your future life. But I don't understand. Narada is telling you, he's not saying, hey, you guys should go look at Rahu to figure out your future life. He's saying, hey, you should look at your mind right now to figure out your future life. Because the condition of your mind right now, and this is the bad news, because most of us are not all that thrilled with the condition of our mind right now. Maybe this is why nobody wants to hear this. Most of us have a mind which is causing us problems. But the mind, the condition of your mind right now is the basis for the condition of the person you're going to wake up being tomorrow and the person that you're going to wake up being in your next life. So if you really want to do something productive and useful, then work on improving the condition of your mind and your feeling and your thoughts right now and figure out how and why. And he tells you how and why. He says the best way to do it is to learn about Hari. And that sounds like total garbage, but figure out why he's saying that. He's a smart man, Narada Muni. Figure it out. Don't just let this information bounce off your ears or go in one ear and out the other and keep thinking about the same thing you were thinking about yesterday. Think about something new. Get Bhagavatam into your mind and let it become the new mind. Let it transform your mind for you. Don't keep hanging on to your old ways of thinking about things. What else we got? Thank you, Alf. Should we listen to our hearts in order to make the right decision then? I don't know. You should think about what your responsibilities are to make the right decision. You should listen. You should think about who you are in relation to other people and therefore what you owe other people. If you take care of what you owe other people, then you'll be doing good karma. You won't be doing bad deeds. The thing that I really dislike the most is people prancing around masquerading as spiritual people who are just irresponsible. And they don't take care of the basic responsibilities that they have to their neighborhood, to their neighbors, to the people in their house, to their kids, to their parents, to their wife, to their husband. Is there a correlation between reincarnation and the placement of signs in nakshatra, like someone's mom having pushed a moon in 7th house D60, and they have Mercury and push in second in birth? Is there a correlation between reincarnation and that? Honestly, I have no idea. But what this does remind me of that is interesting and useful is inherited traits. To me, what's very interesting is just to see inherited traits mirrored into the charts, and how you can identify the inherited traits from parents to kids. Seema says, so by observing the mind we can understand this body? By observing the body, you can understand the mind. You can't observe the mind. The mind is not an observable thing. Does it have a color? No. Mind is higher than Akash. We're going to talk about Akash. Mind is higher than space. It doesn't have a physical location in space. It's not something you can observe. That's why the mind wants a body, so it can be observed and interacted with. So, you can't observe the mind. You observe the body. But by observing, for example, by observing the different structures of the face and the body, you infer the conditions of the mind. My kids laugh so much at my eyebrows, because the way my eyebrows move just cracks them up. Almost right. So by observing the body, you understand the mind, and then by understanding the mind, you understand where the mind came from. So then you understand the previous body. Does experiencing Kundalini release you from rebirth? No. But it could inspire you. What is Kundalini? Kundalini is the energy that's in the body, in the nervous system. It's not spiritual, it's psychological energy. To experience the Kundalini, everybody experiences it every day. To experience it in a profound way, where you're aware of experiencing it, you might become more aware that a real important part of your existence isn't really in your hand, but in the nerves that nourish the hand. And then that might inspire you to figure out who's observing the energy of the Kundalini. But it's definitely not guaranteed that by experiencing Kundalini, you would become enlightened. You might be more aware or enlightened about how your Kundalini works, how your nervous system energy works. And that can make you able to do amazing, super heroic, superhuman things, magical things. But not end of samsara enlightenment. Galib, thank you for taking the time to do Q&A. It's hard for you. It's actually not. You guys don't make it hard for me. I make it hard for me because it's tiring to be this person. So that's the part that's difficult. It's not your fault that I get if I get tired of the questions. The question was asked about why the result of good actions can't be experienced in this life. The question was asked about, oh good, Katie, thank you. The question was asked about why the result of actions can't be experienced in this life, but they can sometimes. Yeah, that's true. Narada somehow didn't mention that, because I think what the king is really talking about is the big bulk of the result. God, these glasses. The big bulk of the result of a Vedic intentional karma. So what I mean is Vedic scripture is packed full of intentional karmas that you'll do, like elaborate ritualistic actions that are like, you know how you get, like modern medicine, they take chemicals and they put them into intense compounds. Whereas actually all the compounds of that's in the medicine is actually out there in the poppy seeds or in the basil leaves and things like that, but not in a super concentrated form. When you take those very compounds and you concentrate them, you modify them a little bit, then you get this like super drugs. So Vedic ceremonies are like that super concentrated form of action, and the bulk of the result doesn't get experienced in the current lifetime, because the result is too dramatic. It changes beyond the parameters that are possible in the current lifetime. So that's why the king was asking that question. That's mainly what Narada Muni was addressing. The bulk of the change happens by being born in the next life. And he wanted to know why is that. Doesn't seem to make sense. All of the change should happen now to me, who performs the action. But yes, as you said, certainly some of the change happens now. Thank you, Om. No. Alf says, I want to thank Narada. I get this feeling like Narada knows Kung Fu on low. I like Alf. I just picture Alf like receiving an Academy Award and saying, I want to thank Narada Muni. For his Kung Fu. I want to thank Narada Muni for his Kung Fu. Most of the recurring dreams that I recall have vividly been about me getting chased by hordes of zombies. Yeah, because you watched a lot of zombies movies and stuff. That's what Narada Muni says. The stuff that goes into your mind is the stuff that you experience. The stuff that goes into your mind during the day is the stuff that you experience while you sleep. Even though you experience it through your eyes and your ears, but while you're asleep, you don't play with it with your eyes and your ears. You play with it with your mind only. Similarly, the actions that you perform with this body, with these eyes and these ears, will be, in the results of those will be experienced in another set of eyes and ears, because of the fact that there's one mind which connects them, like a caterpillar connecting two leaves. It's too much of a question for me, reverse fulfillment. I just think that you should watch this Q&A from the beginning, and the only thing that I find really interesting is the inherited traits from one family to another. Thank you, Marie. Thank you. Some of the karma is processed in this life, Graziella is asking. Of course, definitely. But, and relative to our life and experience, it's quite a lot. You could change your life quite a lot, depending on how you act. But the amount of change, you can become a different species in your next life. You can go live with the gods in your next life. It's very difficult to do that even momentarily without changing your body. Do you believe there's a way to stop reincarnation suddenly, like a reverse Kritika effect? The only really way to do that is by getting a bomb of Bhagavat Katha, information about Hari, but it's not sudden. You can't be sudden. And what is time? You don't understand what is time. Time is just about how you experience the change of things. So time really isn't... What do you call it? A year? You call it what about when the sun is not there? What's a year? So it's sudden, not sudden, long time, not long time is really not meaningful. I'll check my email. Natalia wants to know where my Mercury is. Natalia, I'll make you watch my videos more, and then you'll find out, because I show it and talk about it. All right, how long have we been doing this for? Oh, 1 hour and 4 minutes. I have fulfilled my duty. So I will sign off now. Yes, Brian Schaefer. Can we achieve moksha by meditating on Narayana at the time of death? Sure. Can you meditate on Narayana at the time of death? I doubt it. Especially if you don't even know anything about Narayana and you haven't even tried meditating on Narayana before your death. So yeah, actually the key is the meditation means the condition of the inner mind and what the inner mind is focused on. It doesn't mean sitting like this and saying Om. The reason why that is associated with meditation is because you sit like this to focus on what the inner state of your mind is. If the inner state of the mind is focused on something, then it pulls the body to manifest that. The body is a manifestation of the sense of I and sense of mind. That's what Narada Muni said. So if the sense of I and mind is wrapped to include Narayana, then the manifestation of the body will have to include Narayana, and that can't happen in a non-Narayana-centric Prakriti. It has to happen in the Narayana-centric Prakriti. So you'll transfer from the extrinsic Prakriti to the intrinsic Prakriti. But you can't just... It's not that if somebody just throws a picture of Narayana in front of your face while you breathe your last breath that you're going to get enlightened. You're not even going to see the picture. It's not going to be meaningful to you. It's going to have no effect on your internal self. If you want to be able to meditate on Narayana at the time of death, then my recommendation is sign off and meditate on Narayana right now.